software engineering, different strategies are used to transform existing legacy systems into a modern, maintainable, and efficient versions. These strategies define how the transformation is carried out, depending on the level of change required in the system. The three important strategies are rewrite, rework, and replace, each based on different principles of software transformation. The first is the rewrite strategy. So, rewrite strategy is based on the principle of alteration, which means the existing system is completely rewritten in a different programming language or environment while preserving its original functionality. For example, a system originally written in Fortran may be completely rewritten in a modern language like Java or C. In this case, the logic of the program remains the same, but the entire code base is reconstructed using a new language that is easier to maintain and extend. This approach is often used when the original system is outdated or difficult to maintain, but its functionality is still important. Then is the rework strategy. The rework strategy is based on the principles of abstraction, alteration, and refinement. Instead of rewriting everything, this approach focuses on improving or restructuring the existing code. For example, older programs often use unstructured control flow statements like the typical go-to statements, which make the code difficult to maintain and read. So in the rework strategy, these are replaced with the structured programming constructs like for loop, while loops, or if-else statements. So this makes the program more structured or readable or easier to debug, while still keeping the same functionality intact. Third is the replace strategy, that is based on the principle of abstraction and refinement. In this approach, the existing program is replaced with a new representation at a higher level, often removing low-level implementation details such as control flow logic entirely. Instead of directly modifying or rewriting code, the system is redesigned at a higher abstraction level. For example, instead of focusing on how loops and conditions are implemented, the program is represented in terms of high-level operations or modules. This strategy is often used when the old system is too complex or outdated, and a clear conceptual redesign is more efficient than modifying the existing code. These three strategies, in summary, provide different ways to modernize the legacy systems. Rewrite involves full conversion into a new language. Rework involves improving and restructuring the existing code. And replace means redesign at a higher abstraction level. Now let's have a quick quiz. A company has a payroll system written in Fortran. The system still works correctly, but the developers cannot easily maintain it because modern programmers are unfamiliar with the language. The company decides to completely rebuild the system in Java while preserving all the existing payroll features and calculations. So which re-engineering strategy is being used here? The correct answer is C, that is rewrite. So this scenario demonstrates the rewrite strategy, in which the original functionality of the system remains the same, but the entire code base is recreated in a different programming language environment. So here the original system is in Fortran and new implementation is in Java, and functionality is unchanged. So the key clue is that system is being completely rewritten. Next, an old university management system contains hundreds of go-to statements. Developers improve the code by replacing the go-to statement with the loops, functions, if-else structures. The program still behaves exactly the same after modification. Which strategy is the most appropriate one? So here C is the correct answer. So this is the classical example of rework strategy, if you recall. And the important observation is that original code is being improved and restructured, not replaced entirely. Developers are improving the readability, restructuring the control flow, and making the maintenance easier. Replacing go-to statements with structured programming constructs is one of the most important examples of rework, that is based on abstraction, alteration, and then refinement. Next, a banking organization decides that its legacy software is too complex to maintain. Instead of modifying the current code, the software architect redesigned the system into higher level business modules, service-based components, and abstract operations. The focus is on business functionality rather than low-level control logic flow. So which strategy best describes this approach? So the answer is B. this scenario represents the replace strategy, as focus is on high level business modules instead of low level implementation. So in replace, the old representation is discarded and the system is redesigned at a higher abstraction level. So this is replace strategy. Instead of worrying about loops, conditions, low level code structures, the developers focus on conceptual operations, the services, modules. So it is commonly used when the legacy system is too complicated and modifying existing code becomes inefficient. So conceptual redesign is easier than repairing the old code. Which strategy involves the least dependence on the existing source code structure? The correct answer is D, that is replace strategy, that works at a higher abstraction level. In rework, developers still depend heavily on old code structure, but in rewrite, old functionality remains the blueprint. But in replace, developers move away from low level implementation details completely. They focus mainly on modules, business functionality, and conceptual operations. So replace has the least dependency on the existing implementation structure. Next, we are preserving the program logic but transforming the implementation into a cleaner, structured form without changing the language. So which strategy does this best describe? Answer is C, rework. So this question you can say is tricky because transforming implementation word may sound like rewrite. But the critical clue here is that word, the sentence that says without changing the language. So rewrite usually involves changing the programming language or environment. Here only structure is improved, logic remains same, and language remains same. I hope this session gave you a better understanding of re-engineering techniques and strategies.